Alright, we're going to show you how to skin a frozen rattlesnake. Not alive anymore, or he's pretty cold, with the head on the skin. I don't like removing the head. I think they look better with the head on. So this dude's been in the freezer about 3 or 4 months. He's a pretty big one. So he's not quite thawed out yet. You really, when you get him out of the freezer, you want to not let them thaw out all the way, because they might wake up. So first I'm going to stretch him out. He's pretty big. He's about 5 feet. Kind of straighten him out. And you want to cut your board. I use a 1x12 pine board. Seems to work the best. And you cut it about a foot bigger, or maybe some more than the snake is. You're going to stretch him a little bit. So you start out, always use just a straight edge razor blade. And you can start at the head or the tail, either way. I'll just start at the tail. The tail is kind of the hard part. And this dude is really fat. There's going to be a lot of fat on him. You don't want a dull razor, you want a real sharp one. And you just run it straight up his belly scales. It's kind of hard to do when they're half frozen, but it's not near as messy as when they're thawed out all the way. You just kind of follow it right down the middle the best you can. You don't want to cut too far up into his head. And some people might want to wear gloves for this, like surgical gloves or something. I don't like them because I like to really feel what my fingers are doing. I usually start about in the middle and just start pulling the skin back. And this one's pretty tough. And then once I get my hand like up under it, then I got a full deal right there of skin. Then I just work my way back to the tail, pretty quick like, and then I'll work my way back to the head, that quick. And you flip his head over and be careful, he's still got poison in there, he's got fangs, all that stuff. You want to take a little time, because the head and the tail is where you can mess it up. So you want to know exactly where the skin is, and just basically decapitate him. Get all the muscle off, and then the bone's a little harder. Sometimes a snake this big, get a pair of wire cutters, snap it right off. The head side's done. The tail is a harder part, because the anal glands are right here. There's a lot of muscle. You got to cut carefully right around that spot, or you'll rip the skin. And the tails are real tight skin toward where the coon stripes start. So you don't want to hurry this part at all, really. This is a slow part. And you kind of do the one this big, you can even maybe start working in the middle of the tail. It's a whole lot tougher than the rest of the snake. And this guy was very healthy. He had a lot of fat on him. A lot more than the one that we just did a little while ago. You want to try to remove any meat. This guy was obviously a boy, because that is a testicle right there. The males are usually larger than the females anyway on the diamondbacks. So, just about got it. He's got a nice set of long rattles on him. Once again, it's kind of like the head. You want to be real careful when you get right down to that rattle. You're going to leave a little bit of meat on there. You have to. And just cut the meat away. Get your wire cutter, skin, snap the bone. Bam, you got it. Now, snake this size, a lot of people like to have the meat. So I'm just going to get this out of our way for now. And I'll wash them up in a little while. Just 1 second. Just show the stuff we need that we use over there, the salt, alcohol, and glycerin. Doesn't make that big a difference. I usually start, actually, you can measure your board, but I've done this so many times I don't really have to. Use a tape measure and get right to the center of your board, which is about 5 1/4 or something like that. Cut the skin away from the head a little to get it flat. And generally start with the head. I use these little galvanized 1 1/4 nails. Steel nails get rusty and they can mess up the skin. And I'll start with 2 right up here. And then I'll go down to the tail side. We want to do the same with him. We're probably going to stretch him back an extra 2 inches or so. Line him up real sweet because he's got diamonds. You don't want the diamonds looking all sideways and stuff. So, same thing by the head. You cut the tail skin back down a little bit. Give it an eyeball on how straight it is. Tack your tail down. Real thin skin on the tail. And you get your, pretty much just dump your pile of nails out. Generally tack it right in the middle, real close. Yeah, he has a massive amount of fat on him for a snake. Go about midway toward his head. And keep your eye on this line right down the middle. Sometimes you have to adjust. You don't want to overstretch. Just tight enough to where, you know, it still has a look, because when it dries it's going to shrink big time. That's the main problem people do, is they overstretch them. And then when they'll look good for a while, and then in a year or two the scale that looks terrible. These are basically your your kingpin nails. They're just setting out your straight line all the way, and you come back to the head or the tail, and you can see, like I'm off a little bit here. I'm going to stretch this way a little more. Put another one. And we'll come back here, right by the anal part. It's really basically a different kind of skin. From that point on down, it's very, very fragile skin. And once again, you're going to always keep your eyeball on the center row of scale from head to tail. Okay, it's going to be a little while before I get to the head part, because I got to tack all this out. It's going to look like this one that we just did. About this many nails are going to go down. So I'm going to go back to taping. As soon as I have this part done, then I'll show you how to do the head. Okay, we got them all tacked out. Now we're going to do the head part. And need a couple paper clips, one or two, a couple nails, and I use the same stuff that I use for dang fly in here, that I tan them with, which is about 50% rubbing alcohol and about 50% glycerin. You can get it, both of them at a pharmacy or Walgreens or whatever. And gotta be a little careful with the head. The fangs are in there. You want to kind of open them up. A lot of times I'll take like a little stick or something and just prop his mouth open. And man, he's got some hefty fangs on this dude. I would not want to be on the wrong end of those. I usually get a good pocket knife or a fillet knife, something that you got to kind of peel the skin back to find your fangs. And there they are, man. These are hefty. So once you got a feel of where they're at, they're about a good inch apart. Take a paper clip, kind of make you a little mold of the size of the fangs, which that looks pretty close, about an inch. Then you go back to the end of your paper clip, because you want to tack it down with some couple of nails and make something, kind of bend them where it'll hold the fangs back. So I usually get one at a time, you know, just get under that one, come over here to the other side and get under that one. Whoops. Just about like that. Okay. That's pretty good right there. So I get a tack on this side. And we'll get a tack on this side. You want to angle them down to a little bit. You can touch them, just, you know, don't touch, they're really sharp on the end. But this is where gloves would mess me up. I would not want gloves doing this. I'd much rather just know where my fingers are. Okay, I'm going to let this jaw back down. And I usually use toothpicks, depending how far you want his mouth open. Pretty big, you know, probably about 1.25 inches. You just kind of guess. Take your 2 toothpicks, get your knife. You want to cut them about the same. kind of notch them. And then you'll prop his little mouth open. Get right there at the jaws, on each side of the jaw. It's a real flexible jaw. And those bottom teeth are sharp too, but they're not going to hurt you. And this one tooth's a little crooked. And they got fangs underneath the fangs too. I'll show you in just a second, but that's alright. I don't want to mess with them too much. They don't have to be perfect. You can raise them up higher. You can really overstretch them. But this one I don't want to overstretch him. I think I'll tack another nail right here by his head just to hold him in place better. The next thing we're going to do, get your syringe. Pharmacy probably won't sell you what you need. Go to a feed store for cattle and stuff like that. You can buy a heavy gauge syringe. And so you want to get a couple doses of alcohol glycerin mixture, which is a good preservative. And you just want to stick him pretty much right where his venom sac is. Just fill him up with that stuff. And this will keep the maggots and flies and stuff off of him. And I just kind of go all through the top of his head and inject this stuff just to keep it from smelling and rotting and all that stuff. I mean, you can take the time to just like dissect the head and make clay molds and all that, but you know, we're not going for a masterpiece here. We just want to see the fangs in the head, and it looks pretty cool for doing a short kind of job. Even in the back of the neck here, the meat part, inject a little in there. I mean, you're just basically just flooding it. It doesn't even hurt it. It even helps the skin. And then you'll get you one more small dose or whatever. Go down to the tail end. There's still some meat on it, and you want to preserve that too, because flies can get maggots, and you want to keep an eye on them. It only takes, well, in the Texas heat it's pretty hot, but it only takes about 2 days and he'll be dry. So he's done. Now take regular old iodized salt and you just dose him up with it, man. Be generous about it. I don't put it in the middle of the skin, I just put it on the sides where the fat is. Put it on pretty thick. I'll leave them out in the sun. I don't put them in the shade for the first day or half a day or whatever. The tail, same thing. You want to really pack it on. This will keep the flies off of it, and it'll dry up all that fat, which all this fat edge, I'm going to trim it off with a razor later when it's dry. So this is really the hard part. The next video we shoot will be, you know, trimming it up, tanning it, and putting it down pretty on a board. And that'll be it, man. So this is it. It's not that tough, just got to be careful. We'll get back with you.